You would think that Disney shareholders would be up in arms about Tron Ares, and Disney's blowing it $1 billion down at the box office this year. But no, they're nowhere near giving up their stock. And while we're not going to give you any kind of financial analysis here, we're going to tell you the S&P 500 is burying Disney and Bob Iger. How? Why? Folks, it's time to dive inside the dismal news of Disney. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a dandy of a day. We're happy that you've come our way. Welcome back to the channel that gives you the truth with a capital T, served up on a platter of chatter each and every day. Click the like button. We're going to dive into deep level info you need to know about Disney stock and how it is now parting ways with the S&P 500, with the Dow 30, and yet nobody thinks they're being done dirty by Tron Ares. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a full panel for you, but Disney does not have a full return on their investment when it comes to Tron Ares. How are the shareholders feeling about that? Well, we've got answers. Gizmodo, Germaine Lucier says Tron Ares is an even bigger bomb than we thought. The legacy sequel starring Jared Leto and Greta Lee could be quite costly for the studio. Now, as you all know, they're going off of the Deadline article that we took apart. And they're saying here, well, it's going to lose $132.7 million, which is very specific. We have said, hey, wait a minute, you don't get to count the profit you make off of it going to TV if Disney, who made it, is also the Disney that's buying it for TV to put it on to ABC and Disney Plus. So we must be clear, we think this is about a $250 million floptacular stinker. So what's going on then, ladies and gentlemen? If we go to Tip Ranks, Steve Anderson writing this, insane Disney stock gains as Tron Ares throws a rod? Is that a euphemism that I don't understand, Jonas? Throws a rod?
Automotive joke.
Yeah, it is. I had that happen in Atlanta once, and
I'm sorry to hear that.
Replaced the entire engine.
Give investors an entertaining giant Disney credit. They can take bad news surprisingly well. Well, that's an insult. New reports suggest that Disney's new release, Tron Ares, will be a bomb of epic scale by the time its box office run is all said and done. Despite this word, however, Disney investors still clearly believed in the House of Mouse, sending shares up fractionally in Monday morning's trading. It says the news was already pretty bad for Tron Ares, goes on to cite the Deadline article. And of course, you all know, we've said that's not even close to as bad as it is. The postmortem is even worse. One talent rep noted the idea that Disney would spend $250 million on a Jared Leto film that is a franchise that hasn't worked in 4 decades is insane. Now, if we go right now to the Disney stock, you can see, ladies and gentlemen, that it has dropped about 12% in the last 5 years. If you go look at the S&P 500, it's increased by about double.
Come here for all your financial advice, folks.
No, don't do that. Don't do that at all. We're worse than Jim Cramer. But here's what I want to know. And we'll start off with Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen.
Oh, hey.
Guys, what is it about the perception of Disney that people have not yet figured out? This is a company that just can't get their act together. Mark, why do people not yet in the in financials and also in the coastal elite segments of society, why have they not said, there's a problem here?
Well, I'm going to try not to rant, and I'll just throw out some quick thoughts here. We talked about a lot about this on your show. What really defines woke? Why are these corporations failing? Why have they completely given up on trying to please their customer? That's ever changing, more competition, and Disney just quite clearly gave up on trying to figure out what their customers wanted. And it's without trying to sound sexist, it's not a sexist statement, but I read a really good article about the feminization of logic within boardrooms, within companies, within institutions that's caused us to be in this situation where objective decisions that might not feel nice, but are the right thing to do aren't being done. And instead it's all about patting each other on the back, sucking up to your boss, making your resume look good, trying to promote a message, save the world, things that have nothing to do with shareholder value. And unfortunately, Disney's fallen prey to it. And I don't know how they're going to fix this. And I think it's even more bleak for art. I'll just say 20 seconds about this. Matt Walsh had a really good video today that everybody should check out. And the movie has peaked. TV has peaked, 06, 07. And basically the idea now that we spend all day with these phones stuck to our faces, sort of hyper fragmented, personalized experiences that are even going to get worse with AI. There is no shared culture anymore. There is
Mark, his argument is that 2013, 2012, that was the peak, and that we dropped off after that. I may have the year wrong, but it's somewhere in that frame.
07 to 08, and he had a list of really great movies, and obviously there's been some good ones since then. Obviously, there's some good TV, some good blockbusters. But this idea that you go to work and everybody is standing around the water cooler talking about Game of Thrones is just not going to happen anymore. And that's a scary place to be if you're covering entertainment, I think. I don't know.
Absolutely. Vash, as we look at where Disney has been and where it's going, you know, all I can think is maybe they're hoping that Bob Iger will get out of town and the adults will come back in the room, because Vash, they have trashed so many franchises. Star Wars is basically a non-existent thing now. Marvel is in a malaise. They killed Tron Ares. They did have some other stuff. You know, they had like the C.S. Lewis stuff, and they took out Narnia. It's on Netflix now. I mean, they're worried with K-pop Demon Hunters that they might actually lose the crown when it comes to female IPs. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it is wild just how removed they have been from the culture, have been from the trends. If they listen to Mark Mitchell, maybe they would be a little bit more in tune with the zeitgeist, in tune with what was actually going on. But this Tron Ares, I mean, it just cements the fact that whatever they touch nowadays, they destroy. You see, I think what Bob Iger was thinking was, okay, well, we don't have the creative powerhouse that we used to have, especially when John Lasseter was still there and some other forces at work there. So it's like, okay, well, let's go ahead and take our already established franchises and let's go ahead and sequelize them and continue on with those already established brands, because we can't create anything original now. And the devastating effect that has been the destruction of their of their IP, really. I mean, and this, look at this year alone. Look at Snow White, 1937. I mean, if you look at that animated film when it was originally released and how much it has made over time, I mean, it really has been done gangbusters business for the Walt Disney Company. And now it's like what, like a $200 million loss for that one picture alone. I mean, everything that they are touching, they are destroying, and they're pushing people away when they're actually doing this. It's not just their advocacy. It's not just what they do politically, but it's also the content that they produce. And people, when they think about Disney right now, they associate it with really bad quality. And I've seen a number of posts talk about Tron Ares, talk about how they can't create anything original, and they just destroy what they unfortunately have had created by people that were far better than what they have now.
Hughes, when we look at what's going on with Disney, one of the things that's fascinating to me is, you know, we don't see articles. We don't see articles out there complaining and shaming Disney and saying, why is it that it's performing at less than half the growth? It's actually negative in comparison to the S&P 500. You would think that this would be the story of the day almost every day, right? Netflix drops a bunch and people get their, they lose their minds. They lose their lunch. But Disney has dropped 11%, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get much worse next month. Nobody's saying a peep about it in legacy media, Hughes. Why is that?
Well, simply put, because of the fact that they want to go ahead and cozy up not only to Bob Iger, but also Bob Iger does own a certain part of that particular media as well. I mean, let's face it. I mean, if they speak out against, Bob Iger and everything, either one or two things are going to happen. Either they're doing this to go ahead and keep their jobs and try not to, face any backlash, get kicked out, or they'll just go ahead and do a bit of a sort of, I can't say devil's advocate, but they're going to just pretend that, they're being tough for him. But in reality, they're just going to let up on him later. But the fact of the matter is they got to he's in for a brutal reality check that, no one's going to care about Disney anymore. You're already seeing that in the parks as you reported. You're already seeing that in the content, subscribers and everything. I mean, especially with this whole Jimmy Kimmel thing, which I also think is a bit fabricated and stuff. But at the same time, I mean, if you also think about it, like the media itself, they just go ahead and report whatever is going to get people either outraged or in tune for the sake of ratings and everything. But the fact of the matter is they're going to keep defending Bob Iger even when he's wrong and stuff, even when they try to keep access and stuff. So that way they assume that Disney is still the same thing, but one day they're going to see for themselves that, this is just going to go ahead and they're going to have to stop reporting the truth about Disney, which is the fact that they just lost it. Okay, they're not creative. They also forgot who the customer is, which are parents, by the way. And at the same time, that's going to affect everything from theme parks to all the way to merchandising.
Yeah, and Hughes, you're exactly right. Did I hear somebody coming in? Go ahead, Vash.
They try to make a big deal about buying imaginary creatures. You remember this whole announcement? Oh, 7-figure deal, big deal. And nobody cared. Literally nobody cared. But it shows you that they're willing to buy new IP because they can't create their own.
Yeah, and
Exactly. That's the big problem right there. They're going to go ahead, buy a bunch of IPs and stuff, thinking they're going to make money from it, but they're going to go ahead and put a Bob Iger Disney spin on it, man, and just make it a really woke. And y'all know what happens when you go woke. When you go woke, you go what?
You go broke. Hey, Lou, let's talk about that broke issue. Why is it?
Go back to your chart. Go back to your chart.
You want? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Chart right away, sir. What do you got here?
Because you see, you've mentioned this before, but I've come up with a name for it. We all have heard of what's called the Overton window. We're about
You're singing Mark's song now, sir.
We're about to hit
My favorite
the
topic.
Iger ton window, as in losing a blank ton of money. Because as this 5-year thing moves into those peaks here in a few weeks, the comparison is going to become astoundingly striking between the glory days of Chapek and the not so glory days now. I mean, all of that little bit of tailing over there on the left goes away, and suddenly all you've got is they used to know what they were doing. What did they do different?
Yeah, let me show this to everybody. Let me show this because this is a fun time. You know, not everybody knows this. If we go back to this time when the stock was so high, that's about to be the comparison in the 5-year. This is all Bob Chapek, not Bob Iger. Yeah. Bob Iger has never had the shares be this high. Nope. And if we go to about right here, February 18th, this is when, remember this culture? This was back when they decided they were going to go after Florida over the parental rights and education bill. Yep, they went after them. Pixar was out there, you know, walking across the sidewalk. You had Lucasfilm, you had everybody at Disney. They were up in arms. They couldn't, you know, Imagineers said they'd never moved to Florida. And they started dropping the stock. All these protests inside Disney, dropping the stock. They sort of self-created a crisis. And then the answer to that was, Bob Chapek's got to go. Even though we're the ones who are doing this, Bob Chapek's the man who's got to go. And Bob Iger is the mousy messiah who's going to come in and save the day. He'll come back once more. Ticker tape parade for Bob Iger. They've never gotten anywhere close. Nope. Culture. Nope. Nowhere close.
No, I mean, in look, you got to think of the fact that the company that owns like underwear brands, taking it back to underwear for everybody, Page Industries, actually owns Jockey and Speedo, and they're valued at $41,000 a share apparently. And Disney's how much a share?
Well, in all honesty, though, there is a quantity difference there. We got to say that.
You're just making a brief comparison.
There's
right?
I just want to comment on it briefly. But look, beyond all of that, it's just like Disney has lost their identity. Disney had an identity, and I think Mark would probably agree with me. They used to be considered a family company. Is Disney a family company? No.
Well, you know, families are funny things. Everybody remember Geraldine Ferraro, who ran for vice president with Walter Mondale, and her husband apparently owned a warehouse where certain nefarious folks were storing illicit magazines and things. And they said, we have good news and bad news about Geraldine Ferraro. The good news is she's pro-family. The bad news is it's the Gambino family. So
that's another problem. But Iger literally is the anchor on the sinking Titanic right now, and he has been for a long time. I don't think there's a path forward for Disney to reclaim its familial, like, friendly status ever. I mean, considering all the stuff that we narrowly avoided in the terrible baseball Pixar television garbage that we avoided narrowly, and any of the other things that they had tried to produce absent Lasseter, who actually understood family. They don't have. Go ahead.
What is this animal thing they just bought? I mean, Warner Brothers.
Creatures,
Warner Brothers made 3 movies based on the creature books spun off from Harry Potter, right?
Right.
And after 3 movies, they decided it didn't work well enough, and they had to revamp their plans for Epic to keep the French on the outside, but the hairy on the inside. And after all of that, Disney thinks, well, we can buy a knockoff and make it work.
I'll point one in there. I'll throw one out there. They already did this with what is his name, Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Oh yeah, and didn't they get rid of that?
It was actually Disney Hyperion Press, and they let that go over to, I think, to Fox, and now it was the most successful thing on Disney Plus.
But look,
not saying much.
They've nuked from orbit a lot of stuff, right? Things that could have been successful that were family oriented. And I look, it does. I'm not upset. The reason that Warner Brothers got rid of the magical creatures thing is because it didn't work without Johnny Depp. This is the same problem they have with Pirates. That doesn't work without Johnny Depp. And they bent the knee and kowtowed to the people that were pushing the Me Too and Time's Up baloney sausage. And that actually worked against them when, the believe all women thing backfired like nobody's business. I mean, Amber Heard was Amber Heard, and when exposed, she pooped the bed.
But I believe her.
Right. That's what she felt very grumpy about it, though.
Terrible thing.
That's right, guys. We're gonna go to an amazing chart that Mark is going to give us a walkthrough. But before we do
Ross Perot time.
All right, little cracker heads. All right, but before we do, Mark, Paul, they're blaming it on Jared Leto. That's been the defense so far, is it's Jared Leto's fault. I don't know if that's true or not. Based on the way you're dressed, though, maybe you are the next Disney star for a new Tron franchise. I don't know.
I blamed Tron's failure on Arturo Castro.
Which of the Castro brothers is that one?
Don't hire Latinos if you want success, is what I say.
Well, don't hire Disney if you want success in the financial industry. That's what Mark says. Mark, what are we looking at here at the alpha spread? It's set to 10 years. What is this?
Well, I just am trying to twist a knife in Disney's corpse. If you go to 5 year too, it looks pretty bad. Also,
you want to start at 5 year?
Yeah, look at that. It's not just that their stock price had a peak and now is just languishing in the mud. Look at it compared to the S&P 500. Goodness. 5 years ago, if you had put your money in the S&P 500, you'd have 90% more money. If you would put it in Disney, what's that number? Negative 10%.
Yeah.
It's not just losing a little bit. It is not keeping pace with a rapidly inflating dollar.
And look at this, guys.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Disney's in the S&P 500, aren't they?
Oh, sure. Listen,
so if you took them out of it, how much bigger would it be with that drag not on it?
Disney, it's not just that Disney's in the S&P 500. Disney is the entertainment exemplar of the Dow 30.
Yeah.
And look at this, folks. You want to see how dirty they're doing to investors? No financial advice being given. If you look at this, okay, these are the Bob Chapek years. Bob Chapek was outperforming the S&P 500. As soon as he was kicked out, Iger's been underperforming it the whole way. The entire way.
What are Nelson Peltz was talking about?
And if you go back actually to the 20-year mark or the 15-year mark, you can actually see that Disney kind of mirrored the S&P.
There's the 10-year. You want to go 20-year? You want to go 20?
Yeah, you'll see.
Okay. There's the 20-year.
It had a beta, which meant it was highly correlated to the market. It was a very stable company for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm pretty sure Disney doesn't want people to know about this.
Was crushing the index. It was raking
absolutely
hand over fist. I did another chart. It's on my Twitter feed of just Google search trends for Disney vacation. And it peaked in 2007 and has been down ever since. It's down 60, 70%. It's this idea Matt Walsh is talking about. There are no cultural touchstones anymore, and Disney used to be one. And
Mark, you didn't feed that data to Forbes, did you?
No,
because that's one of the stories we're doing later. I don't know how that happened, but that's pretty impressive.
What's Disney's multiple?
So literally, the only part of the company that's making money is the money from the Arabs and the Japanese.
Well, let's go to Steve real quick. Steve had a question that he wants to ask the panel, and then we'll wrap it up with Jonas. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, the question that I had is, why is Tron acceptable to attack as a Disney fail, but the media justify every other one? And there's some opinions in the private chat that we have in that it's from different era, and Jared Leto is an easy target and all that kind of stuff. I think the argument of it's from a different era it doesn't really work because, Star Wars is from the same era. and actually having sequels at the same times as this one. The Jared Leto push, that's one thing, but you can't justify him for the whole reason why this thing's failed. I mean, we all know that logically, but I'm willing to hear and be proven wrong.
It's okay.
Well,
it's okay to say a film failed when it's led by a white dude.
Yep.
Yeah, but it wasn't. I mean, everybody who watched that film knows it's like the girl who was the key to everything. Bologna
They didn't
sausage.
put her on the posters. The whole thing was go watch Jared Leto in Tron Ares.
well,
most
and
things black are on the posters.
everyone who doesn't know who Jared Leto was just went, who? Okay, I guess this is a star. I guess this is what we're doing. And they show up for Tron, and we don't know if we're getting original Tron. We don't know if we're getting Tron Legacy. And any goodwill that's been there for Tron Legacy has been a very quiet cult following kind of thing. This is a movie that Disney has tried very hard to say, well, this is a thing. Tron has never really been a thing. As much as I love Tron,
There were more
Tron has
people.
never been a thing.
There were more people standing out in front of Jimmy Kimmel's studio complaining about him not being on the air than ever clamored for another Tron movie.
But you guys are missing the important part of the conversation. Jared Leto is a very well-known cult leader.
Oh,
So, his
not-
cult didn't make it to the theaters, I don't think.
Yeah.
I just call this a big bait and switch. That's it. They
Yeah.
put Jared Leto out there, but then next thing you know, they don't have him set up as the leader and everything. They just had him as the face of it. And besides,
Well,
the one movie that did better than this, I'm pretty sure was Morbius. That's the one Jared Leto movie before this one that I actually liked and stuff. But at the same time, I mean, this is nothing more but a bait and switch.
but
You know,
you had
Hughes, you bring up
Aries
bait and-
time. There was
Yeah.
Aries time.
yeah.
Hughes, you bring up bait and switch. It begs the question, has Disney been an all-out financial bait and switch? Helping Hollywood produce a product that you want to consume, that's what we do each and every day, folks. And this time, it's time to, well, say goodbye. We know, but don't cry. No, for we will have more videos on the way. We love to bring those videos and that information. And by the way, if you'd like even more, consider going to the Patreon page. It's www.patreon.com/WDWPro. It's where we put out stuff exclusively there that we simply can't put out in other places for whatever reason, be it because it's too spicy or because, well, perhaps we're working to corroborate it. But you can find out things early and first over there. Folks, we surely have had a great time spending time with you. Consider clicking that like button, share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to those pesky algorithms. It is the notification bell, and drop a comment right on down below. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.